The purpose of this program is to educate staff at all levels about the very real possibility of a robbery at your branch. It is also designed to teach you the importance of taking a proactive approach by preparing for a robbery. If any of the guidelines presented in this program differ from those in effect at your branch, be sure to follow your own branch policies and procedures. When a financial institution is robbed, it doesn't just happen to one person. The whole branch is robbed. Since robbery affects the whole branch, this program is designed to be most effective in a group training situation. We strongly recommend that you train, practice, and update your robbery procedures as a group. That way, your branch will be prepared and can operate as a team. During and following your training, please refer to the robbery kit that is provided with this program. For additional one-on-one training, please visit our website at cumis.com to find out more about our Training Games program. Robbery, Are You Prepared? Is a user-friendly program. However, we've designed a facilitator's guide to assist trainers with effective delivery. It's a menu-driven program designed in segments to allow users to complete the program at their own pace or time allotment. The program design also allows users to review specific segments when required. By selecting the Play All button, the program will run from start to finish. Please keep in mind that some staff members may be sensitive to the content, especially if they have experienced a robbery.
I did exactly what he said. He came up to the counter and he says, "You know the procedure, put the money in the bag."
My first thought when they came in was, it's not happening. Like, you don't believe what you're seeing.
Tend to pay a little more attention to your customer lineup. Is there someone new in there that you haven't seen before?
Do as you're told. Just do as you're told. Don't be a hero.
There's so many things that you need to be doing right away for the police more than anything. And for your own safety.
You're scared like someone's going to get hurt, like you don't want to endanger anybody else's life, so you want to just make sure you just follow the proper procedures that you have.
The training that you do go through, it comes back to you. Whether you realize it or not, it does come back to you. And it helps you get through the situation.
And he showed the gun and told me explicitly to put the phone down now and get on the floor.
If it ever happens to you, even if you're not directly involved, you can still experience some of the trauma.
Robbery, Are You Prepared? Presents current, generally accepted practices and procedures designed to minimize your risk of robbery before one occurs in your branch, perhaps even deter a robbery, maximize your safety and the safety of others during a robbery, and help your branch staff recover quickly and completely after a robbery occurs. Whether you are employed in a large city center or a small rural branch, if you work with money, you may be robbed. In fact, some branches have already experienced multiple robberies.
It was Monday morning and it was a normal day, nothing out of the ordinary. We opened up the branch. I was in my office. My teller was at his workstation. There was nobody in the branch at the time. And all of a sudden these two guys came in. And one went to the teller and one came into my office and sat down in my office and told me to put down the phone. I was on the phone at the time. You know, I wasn't thinking that it was a robbery or anything, and I was just leaving a message for the member. And he showed the gun and told me explicitly to put the phone down now and get on the floor. That's when I knew that, hey, we're in a robbery situation, and you know, all your little things click in, trying to remember what they look like and stuff like that, and being calm above all, because like I mentioned, money can be replaced, people can't. Then they told me to get up. In the meantime, my teller was already unloading his money out of the till, and the other robber came behind with me, and I had to open up the spare teller drawer and empty that out. And then they noticed the 5-minute buckets, and so they wanted to get at the money, so I explained that it takes 5 minutes, and they said, "We'll wait." So I thought, okay, 5 minutes, you know, let's wait. This isn't textbook, but let's just go with it. You know, just remain calm, give them what they want. They kept telling us not to look up, don't look up, because we were trying, I was trying to get a description of them. And then the buckets opened, we got the money out of the buckets and gave it to them. And then they wanted the tape. And unfortunately, the security tape was at the same location as the vault in the back room. And so at that point, I had the gun pointed to my head, and he led me to the back and made me take the tape out. And it was difficult to take the tape out because there's a locking mechanism on the tape, on the machine, and I was fumbling and shaking trying to get the tape out. And that's when I felt the gun pressed right against my head, and he just wanted me to get the tape out. And so I finally got the tape out, and that's when he said, well, what about this? And he pointed to the safe. And I said, that's on a 30-minute timer. And once again, that's when they said, well, we'll wait. So basically we were in I don't know if it's a hostage situation or what. In the meantime, a member came in, and that member was led into the back room. And my teller had to do the comms. And for the treasury, after he did the comms, both him and the member were bound and gagged. They had to both lay down on their stomachs with their feet and hands and mouth gagged with duct tape. And during that time, 30 minutes, they pulled the phone cords and everything, and shut the blinds. We had blinds at the front of the credit union, and they closed the blinds so nobody could see in. And so it gave you a chance to think about a lot about life and whatnot, and wondering if you were going to live or not, or that expression, your life passes by in front of you. It really does. One of the robbers was really edgy, and kept thinking that I pressed the button, the silent alarm, which I didn't. And then after the 30 minutes went by, I had to open the safe, and they took the money out. And then at that point, I was bound and gagged to make sure, I guess, I wouldn't run after them or anything. And they left, and that was it.
Various types of financial institution robberies have been steadily increasing over the last decade. Even more alarming, most robberies are now drug-related. That means financial institutions are not only dealing with more robberies, they're dealing with robbers who need money for drugs. And that increases your need to be prepared.
Nobody move. Nobody look up. Move down. Nobody move.
There are many different scenarios in financial institution robberies, including teller holdups, central cash robberies, branch takeovers, cash shipment interceptions, and automated bank machine robberies. While ABMs require 2 people to open them, they are not on delayed action timers. Also, if successful, the robber nets a large amount of money for his efforts. For up-to-date statistics in your area, contact your local police department. The fact is, robbers look for opportunities to steal. And when deterrence procedures are in place, when all staff are trained, alert, and observant, your branch will be better prepared and maybe less vulnerable to robbery. There are lots of procedural steps you can take now to prepare your branch and your people so they know what to do before, during, and after a robbery.
Preparation is a very reasonable strategy, and will probably reduce the number of people who have more serious impacts from being exposed to being robbed. I think it's also normal to expect that there will be a reaction, period, despite your training. But I think training will help to sort of normalize the experience and give you something to do in the event. The difficulty with traumatic events is often their suddenness and the feelings of helplessness that occur with that. And if you've got a strategy that you've already put in place, then, hey, I just move into my strategy, I work the things that I'm supposed to do, and get this scenario over with. And I don't get into the survival mode, which is when sudden events, traumatic events happen to people, they can traditionally fight, flight, or freeze. And you don't want to be doing any of those. You just want to help get the scenario over with. And so preparedness would help.
There's your coffee there.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Have a good day.
Yep,
Take
you
care.
too. Bye-bye. Hi. Account number, please.
I thought nothing would ever happen. You go through this procedure, but it's never going to happen to me. But you still do as you're taught, just in case. I mean, you have fire drills at home in case you ever have a fire in your home, but of course, that's not going to happen in your home. And I think I carried that over into the workplace, thinking, well, it's good to be ready, just in case, but it's never going to happen to us. But when it did happen, it was good to have the training in the background. That's what cuts in when you're in a panic situation.
Being through 2 robberies, I've discovered the importance of robbery procedures. They're very important as far as gathering information that you would not necessarily be able to think about if you didn't have the tools to use. They're very important for the police to use, but most importantly, they're important for your safety and the safety of your customers. Because basically the golden rule is to stay calm, and that's what it's all about.
The more prepared you are physically, that is, the appropriate branch procedures are in place, and emotionally, your staff is trained to deal with a robbery, the easier it may be to get through the experience. But it's not enough just to have policies and procedures in place. You should also practice regularly and train all levels of staff. That way, even in the face of danger, autopilot should kick in, where everyone automatically does the right thing. It's also important to keep the training alive by reviewing and updating the information regularly, by training all new staff, and by providing refreshers every 4 months. As a result, your staff may become more vigilant and not complacent about robbery. The purpose of this program is to educate staff at all levels about the very real possibility of a robbery at your branch. It is also designed to teach you the importance of taking a proactive approach by preparing for robbery. This segment of the program presents current, generally accepted practices and procedures designed to help you through the trauma of a robbery after one occurs in your branch. Please keep in mind that some staff members may be sensitive to the content in this program, especially if they have already experienced a robbery.
A debriefing is an opportunity provided to employees to get their heads and hearts around what happened. So during a debriefing, which can last anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours. Employees are taken through a number of steps which go beyond just emotional reactions. It talks about their cognitive reactions, their physical reactions, their behavioral reactions since the event. It helps them understand and really importantly normalize what happened to them.
After the first robbery, risk management sent their crisis person over for some immediate counseling. I found that a little difficult at the time because I spent a good hour and a half with the police filing a report, and then same with they had the police dusting and stuff, so I had to stay there for a while. But when the crisis person came, to me it didn't help at first because I was tired of rehashing the story and telling them what happened and everything, all the events and everything. But she was concerned as far as my well-being, what I felt like and stuff like that.
Talking about the incident has been shown to be immensely helpful in dealing with a critical incident. Talking about it in a safe, supportive, and structured environment can be particularly helpful so that one doesn't feel overwhelmed by their emotions, that they understand that their reactions are normal. Especially in a group debriefing, they hear from other people, so talking about what you felt can sometimes trigger a reaction or the thought in someone else, I felt the same way, or oh, I thought I was crazy, but I guess I'm not. So talking about it not just helps you, but can help people around you, coworkers who have experienced the same kind of event.
Following a robbery, you often hear, "Luckily, no one was hurt." While it's a blessing when there is no loss of life or physical injury, it's never true that no one was hurt. Human emotions are extremely complex, and so are the emotional responses to a traumatic situation. People react differently, even to the same incident. And since no two people are alike, a traumatic experience affects each of us differently. One person may take the robbery in stride, while another may be devastated. The teller who was absent during the robbery may be more upset about it than the one who was actually robbed.
There's a full range of reactions to a critical incident or traumatic event. And they can happen during the event, directly after, or even days, weeks, sometimes months after the event. They can range from mild to severe. They can cover the general spectrum, which would include physical reactions, cognitive reactions, emotional reactions, and behavioral reactions. All of these reactions can have the capacity or the ability to interfere with one's ability to function normally, say at work or in the home or throughout one's entire life. Physical reactions after the event can include disruptions to sleep. It can include an increase or decrease in our appetites for food or sex. One can experience just an overwhelming sense of fatigue or exhaustion, which is part of the normal reaction after an event. Cognitive reactions during the event can include an inability to concentrate, difficulty focusing, or experiencing tunnel vision, or things seem to be happening in slow motion. Time seems to stand still. For other people, it's just everything seems to be a blur. After the event, the kind of cognitive reactions that one can experience can include short-term memory loss, and can also include flashbacks days and weeks after the event. And part of the flashbacks can be recollections of even the smallest detail that just keeps playing itself over and over again. So common emotional reactions after the event can certainly, first and foremost, be a fear of repetition of the event. What if this happens again? Other emotional reactions after the event can also include strong feelings of rage and sadness, and even guilt or self-doubt, that 20/20 hindsight. Did I handle that right? What if, I coulda, woulda, shoulda kind of stuff that can happen. That those feelings of doubt, feelings of being alone and isolated, just feelings of being all alone in the world, can also be a common emotional reaction. The behavioral reactions after the event are critical to pay attention to, because they can include such things as social withdrawal and isolation. One can rely more on drugs and alcohol to cope with the event, and if you're used to using drugs and alcohol to cope, and then a critical incident happens, you can then develop a serious problem because of that, with drinking more and relying on drugs to help you sleep. The other behavioral reaction is withdrawal from service or resignation, that people just pick up and leave. And for companies, this means the loss of human capital, or the loss of trained personnel, good people.
All those present at the time of a robbery, whether they were directly involved or witnessed the event, have been frightened, terrified, even traumatized. It doesn't matter if there was physical violence or simply the threat of violence. It doesn't matter if weapons were used or even seen. In a critical event like a robbery, there is an unexpected loss of security, a sudden loss of control. People fear for their lives. When physically injured, the body goes through a healing process. The mind also enters into a healing process that allows it to recover from the emotional injury of being traumatized. The victims of trauma may journey through a range of normal emotions. This cycle of emotions is known as the post-trauma cycle. The post-trauma cycle is designed to help you learn about human responses to trauma. That way, you can be prepared for your own reactions to trauma, recognize the physical and emotional signs in others, and respond appropriately and communicate effectively to support others through a crisis. The cycle format is designed to illustrate the many responses to trauma without indicating that there is a specific order or predictability to the stages. We also wish to emphasize that not everyone goes through all of the stages, nor is there a specific time frame to any stage. The post-trauma cycle has been described in 4 phases: shock, impact, recurrence, and resolution. Each of these phases has its own emotions, and everyone reacts differently. Not all emotions have to be experienced by everyone, and certainly not in any particular order. Each of us deals with an emotional trauma in our own way. The important thing is that we do deal with it. Shock is the normal emotional response of a victim following a trauma or critical incident. There may be 2 distinct emotional responses during the shock phase: immobilization and denial. Immobilization means that the victim may be so distraught by the trauma of the incident that he or she is totally confused and disorganized. Denial occurs when the victim is so overwhelmed that he or she questions whether the incident really happened.
There is an impact of being traumatized. It can include shock. For some, they just shrug it off. They don't even get to a shock phase, so I don't want to predict it. But it's a normal experience to feel shock, to be in shock, to be sort of feeling overwhelmed. And the whole point of the training that we're trying to teach people is that they don't have to get to be an overwhelmed state, because they've gone through the proper procedures, and they will have intense feelings afterwards. and they'll fluctuate, and that's normal. I think everybody has to accept that being exposed to a traumatic event like a robbery will be impactful on them. And so there'll be a lot of different feelings that come up for people depending on their own personal history and experience, and depending on how dangerous they experience the event. For some, it might have been exciting. It doesn't always have to be negative. And for others, it can be very dangerous, and they feel very frightened and afraid, and they may need more help than others because of that. And the other people that sometimes are ignored are the people who go numb and say everything's okay, and are sort of nursing this numbness inside, and then that just sort of grows and develops into problems later.
After the initial shock, the victim may move into the impact phase of the post-trauma cycle. There may be 3 distinct emotional responses during the impact phase: anger and/or extreme anxiety, depression, and self-doubt. Anger may be directed at those responsible for the critical incident, as well as others in positions of authority, such as government officials, the police, management, or even co-workers, family, and friends. The victim may be angry because of the violation he or she feels, or the perception that not enough was done before or after the critical incident. The victim could be angry with family and friends because they just don't understand. Extreme anxiety may be displayed by episodes of crying or trembling as tension builds. If the victim suffers from depression as a result of the critical incident, he or she may be unable to sleep. The victim may start worrying about the future, thinking that the incident has shattered any future dreams and plans. Depression may cause the victim to feel alone and isolated. He or she might feel that no one else understands the trauma because no one else has experienced it. If depression is allowed to continue, it may become more acute, and the victim might need professional help. Trauma victims sometimes stop talking about the incident itself and their feelings about it. They stop talking to their colleagues because it's the same old story, and everyone else is hurting too. They may not talk about it at home because they don't want to expose their family to the trauma or remind them of the risky situation they were in. Since they aren't talking about their feelings, victims may feel isolated because no one understands what they're going through.
On average, over 50% of women will have traumatic events in their lifetime. 60% of men will have traumatic events in lifetime. So trauma happens to people. Majority of people recover from traumatic events. But if people begin to feel different after having a traumatic event, like they feel continuously depressed and sad or empty, they feel like they've lost enjoyment in life, or they become troubled with nightmares or intrusive memories of the traumatic events that they've gone to, that there is help, and that those are normal responses that can be treated. That a lot of people who've had traumatic events sort of feel changed. Sometimes the traumatic events, like a robbery, changes their belief. Like, how could I be that close to being killed? This life shouldn't happen to me this way. It's no longer a perfect world. It's no longer a safe world. And so people can change dramatically from having been exposed to sudden injury and death. And those sorts of things need to be dealt with, and you don't have to just do it alone. There are people that can help you.
During what we call the impact phase, victims may begin to have feelings of self-doubt. They may start to doubt their own behavior during the incident and ask themselves, what if I'd done this? Or maybe I should have, or if only I'd... By inventing different scenarios, the victim escapes the trauma of the real incident by slipping into an imaginary incident that he or she can control. The longer this phase lasts, the more elaborate the scenarios may become. The recurrence and resolution phases often blend together. As the term resolution implies, the victim may begin to understand and accept the feelings he or she is having as just part of the healing process. However, the resolution phase can be punctuated by moments and periods of recurrence. Recurrence may be triggered by an important anniversary, like that of the critical incident, or Christmas, even a child's birthday or a parent's death. The impending court case, a loud noise, or a person who resembles someone from the incident may trigger a flashback. During recurrences, the emotions of the shock and impact phases may resurface, often with greater intensity. The victim may feel especially inhibited about voicing his or her fears and emotions during a recurrence. Others may encourage the victim to forget about the incident and put it in the past. Then, by not talking about it, the victim may withdraw and become more isolated. The self-doubt and what-if scenarios from the impact phase may return and even intensify. Resolution may occur over time if the victim is allowed to express his or her feelings and come to terms with the traumatic experience. Acceptance occurs when the victim has learned to live with the traumatic event and accepts it as part of his or her experiences. As the traumatic event is accepted, the victim can begin to reestablish feelings of self-control and move towards recovery. The trauma of a critical incident can have a lasting effect if the victim doesn't deal with his or her feelings and express them. Talk to your coworkers, family members, or friends. And remember, the emotions you are feeling are normal and may need time to resolve. Victims may need to be referred for professional guidance at any stage of the post-trauma cycle. The ideal branch closing situation also involves at least 2 employees. At the end of the day, however, every employee in the branch should be part of the team. Always be aware of strangers, inside and out, who seem to be hanging around or taking their time. But this is especially important as the end of the workday approaches. If you have any concerns, call the police for assistance. Once all customers and staff have left the premises, the following closing procedures should be followed. Check to ensure that all doors and windows are locked. Examine the interior, including all rooms, closets, the basement, safety deposit box cubicles, and so on, to ensure that everyone has left the building. Turn off all office equipment, including calculators, photocopiers, typewriters, etc. Sign off all computer terminals and dim the screens. Check the kitchen and lunchroom to ensure that all appliances are turned off. Leave all cash drawers and anti-hold-up units empty and open, and don't forget to remove the keys. Unless the cash dispensing unit is intended for 24-hour service, cash cassettes should be removed from the CDU and locked in a designated safe or vault security locker. Lock all securities and records inside the appropriate compartments. Confidential or vital records should never be left on desks, counters, or even in wastebaskets. Lock up all rubber stamps. Place the check writer inside the main safe or vault. Have the setting on the safe or vault time lock checked by an employee other than the person who set it. Close and lock the safe or vault door in accordance with your alarm company's instructions. Lock all other safes or vaults, fireproof compartments, and filing cabinets, remove the keys, and spin the combinations. Leave some lights on inside the office, especially those over the safe or vault, and record cabinets. Turn the exterior lights on to illuminate the night depositories, ABMs, parking lots, and rear exits. These lights should be on a separate circuit that is controlled from the main electrical panel. Open all curtains to allow police and others a good view of the interior. Like the opening procedures, final exit from a branch should involve a two-person team. The first person, the lookout, should leave first and remain in the car, engine running, windows up, and doors locked. Once the second person secures the building and locks the front door, it is safe for the team to leave together. While opening and closing are times of peak vulnerability, you should have your wits about you throughout the entire workday. Before, during, and after work, your eyes are invaluable security features. Always be alert to what's going on in and around the branch. Be aware of any suspicious activity and report it to your supervisor or call the police. Robbers will often case the joint, looking for weak spots, waiting for the right moment. The back door should only be used for emergencies. It should remain locked with the alarm system engaged at all times. To the robber, it's an easy target for an ambush. Remember, criminals look for opportunities. With the time lock device, the safe or vault can be programmed to be opened at a specific time. This helps prevent extortion as well as after-hour robberies. The branch determines a teller's daily working supply of cash based on anticipated needs. The teller purchases the required cash supply from the main treasury before the branch opens to the public. The teller should remove her daily cash supply from her teller compartment in the vault, leaving the compartment empty and the door open. She should then deposit her cash supply into her cash drawer. During peak hours, a teller may require a higher working amount. Anti-hold-up units are installed at each teller station as another security feature. The anti-hold-up unit protects the teller's daily cash supply and large cash deposits. Before opening the branch to the public, tellers should ensure their cash holdings are within their authorized limits. When large amounts of cash put you over your cash limit, you can deposit the excess money into the slot of the anti-hold-up unit, where it drops into a locked safe. If you are over your daily limit, you should sell the excess to Treasury. The money in the anti-hold-up unit becomes inaccessible until it is emptied and transferred to Treasury at the end of the day, after the branch is closed. Throughout the day, excess cash must be transferred from the cash drawer to the drop box of the anti-hold-up unit, and then to your personal teller locker in the safe or vault. If your cash becomes low and you have money in your drop box, you can move it up to your cash drawer. Business tellers in particular deal with a larger volume of money and may be targeted by a robber who knows this. To reduce robbery loss, tellers are expected to stay within their authorized cash drawer limits. Safes or vaults equipped with a time lock are programmed to open at your least vulnerable times, that is, before the branch opens for the day. At the end of each business day, after all tellers have balanced, cash holdings and any excess cash should be locked in the safe or vault. Once the safe or vault is locked, it should remain closed until the next business day. Any procedure that makes the money more accessible for those who work in the branch also makes it more accessible to criminals. In order to reduce the amount of cash exposed to robbery, ABMs and night depositories should only be serviced before or after branch hours. Before the front doors are open to the public, 2 people should empty the night depository and verify the contents. This procedure limits the amount of money a robber can take. A 5-minute delayed action timer on the safe or vault has to be activated before it can be opened. Usually, the robber won't wait around. Robbers know that the Treasury holds the largest amount of cash in the branch. Treasury access during regular hours should be limited, and once the main Treasury is locked, it should remain closed for the day until the front door is locked at closing. To ensure your electronic and mechanical security equipment is working properly, test it regularly. Periodically check that the camera images are of good quality and make sure that the time and date reported is accurate. Regularly check the view of each camera positioned within the branch to verify that the image is clear and unimpeded. Robbers are aware that more cash is exposed before and after regular branch hours. You should never admit non-staff before opening or after closing. Implement a no exceptions policy that includes service people, friends, relatives, even regular customers. Whether it's before, during, or after hours, always be alert and take appropriate action when strangers are hanging around inside or outside the branch. Robbers will often case the branch to plan the robbery for the most opportune time. Always verify identification before allowing visitors into sensitive areas of the branch. And make sure that a staff member accompanies them the entire time. Branch business should always remain confidential, especially when large amounts of cash are involved. Make sure that only the person you are talking to is listening when you mention a cash shipment. Never count cash in an area exposed to public view. Robbers know that a cash shipment means a large amount of money is on hand. That's why robberies frequently occur immediately following a cash delivery. Always be discreet about cash shipments at your branch. Cash shipments should be secured immediately and allowed a reasonable cooling off period before being verified. Always utilize the safe vault and treasury delayed action timers to reduce robbery loss. Each teller cash supply and treasury cash supply should contain bait money that can be discreetly included with the money taken in a holdup. Bait money should not be clipped, stapled, banded, or otherwise identified. The denomination and serial numbers of the bait money should be previously recorded. This is usually done by fanning and photocopying a small number of banknotes that may be traced when the robber spends the cash. Robbers may discard smaller bills, so use higher denominations for bait money. We want this money to be discreet, so don't use new or consecutively numbered bills. Other bait money tips include placing a small number of 10s under the 20s or 20s under the 50s in each teller's cash drawer. During a robbery, the teller should pick up the notes, starting with the highest denomination, to allow the bait money to merge with notes of the same denomination. Bait money should also be placed in the main treasury cash supply. And don't forget to change your bait money twice a year so that it doesn't look different from the rest of the cash. Finally, make sure the bait money record is stored in a separate location. Some financial institutions include die packs with their bait money. Die packs are designed to stain the money and the robber. That often renders the cash useless or easy to trace should the robber try to spend it. If die packs are used at your financial institution, follow the procedures as established at your branch. Never jeopardize your own safety or that of your coworkers during a robbery. If the robber instructs you not to include the die pack, do as he says, or do what makes you feel most comfortable. Never try to be a hero. Once the robber has left the branch, it's time to notify the police by calling 911. Prepare your branch staff ahead of time so they know who and when to call. Follow your branch procedures for activating the hold-up alarm. Press the alarm only after you are sure the robber has left the premises. When you work with money on a regular basis, its actual worth may become insignificant to you. Over time, large amounts of cash may become just numbers. But to a potential robber who may be observing, it will always be cash. Never let your guard down because a robber looks for an opportunity to strike. In fact, he may visit your branch several times waiting for the right opportunity. If your branch is prepared and alert, you send out the distinct message, "There's no opportunity here." In this country, preparing the workplace and its people is becoming an integral part of every effective emergency plan. In fact, workplace training that promotes the health and safety of employees has already been legislated in some provinces. The purpose of this program is to educate staff at all levels about the very real possibility of a robbery at your branch. It is also designed to teach you the importance of taking a proactive approach by preparing for a robbery. This segment of the program presents current, generally accepted practices and procedures designed to minimize your risk of robbery before one occurs at your branch. Please keep in mind that some staff members may be sensitive to the content in this program, especially if they have already experienced a robbery. Managers, supervisors, and all branch staff should be aware of the risk of robbery. And all staff, especially frontline workers, should be informed of this risk when they are hired. If you have not yet been formally trained in robbery prevention, ask about the policies and procedures in effect at your branch. These policies and procedures should be in writing and reviewed with all staff on a regular basis. Since you work with money, your risk of robbery is high. Even if your branch has never been robbed, you should be cautious and alert at all times. Don't let a false sense of security make you the robber's next target. Try not to let your guard down. The risk of robbery is especially high when your branch is opening or closing for the day. The following guidelines are designed to minimize your risk at those particularly vulnerable times. Before we get into the specific opening and closing guidelines, here are a few general safety measures to keep in mind. All staff, whether opening or closing or working, should enter and exit by the front door only. The back door should remain locked at all times. Employees should never work alone. There should be at least 2 staff members on the premises at all times. Entrance keys should be assigned only to those employees who are responsible for opening and closing the branch. Once you've established that the phone number on a service person's business card is legitimate, you should phone and confirm the appointment. Any service person, repair person, or any other non-employee should be supervised at all times while on the premises. The ideal branch opening situation involves a team of at least 2 employees. The first person should scan the area for suspicious people and/or vehicles. And check the exterior of the premises and all entrances for any evidence of a break-in. If all looks well, the first person should enter the building and lock the door from the inside. Meanwhile, the second employee, the lookout, should remain outside in the car, watching and waiting for the prearranged all clear signal. The car windows should be up, the doors locked, and the engine running. Once inside, the first employee should thoroughly inspect the interior, beginning with checking the alarms and the lights. Next, the employee should check all windows and doors and examine all areas, including washrooms, closets, the basement, and safety deposit box cubicles. If everything looks normal inside as well as outside, the first employee should give the all clear signal. Then exit the building and, yes, lock the door. Why should you exit and secure the building after giving the all-clear signal? First of all, it confirms that the all-clear signal was not given under duress. Someone could have been waiting inside and forced you to send the signal. Also, a robber could be watching from outside, waiting for an opportunity to get in. The two employees should then enter the building together and follow the alarm company's instructions for opening the safe or vault at the designated time. All other employees arriving for work should enter the premises only if the all-clear signal is visible. Your opening protocol, including your all-clear signal, should be changed quarterly so it doesn't become routine or obvious to anyone else who might be watching. During a staff meeting or robbery training session, the whole group could participate in deciding what your all-clear signal might be. Your all-clear signal should be known only to branch staff. Employees need to understand the importance of keeping it confidential. You should never enter the premises if you notice a suspicious person or vehicle, or if a break-in is suspected. Instead, make a mental note of the person or persons' vehicle, license number, and any signs of a break-in as you quickly leave the location. Contact the police immediately, but don't return to the branch until the police inform you that it is safe to do so.
We're at 391 Heron Street.
If there are any signs of a break-in, be careful not to disturb the evidence. Leave the building immediately and call the police from an outside location. Why not just call the police from the scene? Because your safety is always a priority. If there are signs of a break-in, the criminals could still be inside. If the all-clear signal is not given within a reasonable time, the second employee, the lookout, should never enter the premises. Instead, he should leave the area and contact the police.
My branch manager's still inside, hasn't come out yet. I'd like you to send somebody over immediately. Can you do that?
In a situation like a small branch where only one employee opens, he or she should communicate the all-clear signal by phoning a designated contact person within a previously established time. If the call is not received within the allotted time, the designated contact person should immediately notify the police. The purpose of this program is to educate staff at all levels about the very real possibility of a robbery at your branch. It is also designed to teach you the importance of taking a proactive approach by preparing for a robbery. This segment of the program presents current, generally accepted practices and procedures designed to minimize your risk during a robbery at your branch. Please keep in mind that some staff members may be sensitive to the content in this program, especially if they have already experienced a robbery. In the financial services industry, we have a golden rule. Don't try to be a hero. It means just give the robber what he wants and do as he says. Talk to the robber. Tell him what you need to do in order to get him the money. Ask for his permission before you make any sudden moves. Finally, get him out of the branch as quickly as possible.
The biggest reason for people's different reactions is the history that they bring to the event. Some people will have had a whole bunch of traumatic events starting from childhood. Others will have lived in a completely perfect world where threat has never entered, and so they would be shattered by the eventuality of a threat because they don't even consider that that is a possibility. And others live to be in threatening situations because that's where they know how to thrive. I've treated a number of military personnel that can't stand what most of us would call normal activity because they're not, being challenged and their adrenaline's not flowing. So at those moments that many of us would think are the highest points of danger, that's when they are feeling fully alive. I think people who taking sort of the military and those people who have repetitive traumatic events out of the loop, for ordinary people, why they react differently based upon who they are, how they grew up. Some of it's based upon their genetic makeup. Some of us are naturally more anxious than others. Others are less emotional. And so we all bring that to the table and we interpret the events very differently. And it also depends on just how we perceive the level of dangerousness.
In a robbery situation, it's so important, first of all, to have the procedures in place, and secondly, to practice regularly so your reaction is automatic. It's what we call autopilot training. You become so familiar with the procedures you've learned and practiced that during a robbery, the training kicks in and you automatically follow the procedures.
And I looked up, and there the person was with a balaclava on and a gun in hand and a bag. He came prepared, and we did as he asked.
You have fear, you have thinking that you're scared like someone's going to get hurt, like you don't want to endanger anybody else's life, so you want to just make sure you just follow the proper procedures that you have.
This must be a dream, a bad dream, a nightmare, but it wasn't, it was reality, and you have to deal with it. And you just stay calm, do what they say, that's all you can do.
The training kicked back in. It was, in the back of my mind, it was saying, observe, look at things, look at this, look at that. Trying to soak up as much as I could from what I was seeing. But again, because you feel threatened, you don't want to have eye contact. Then I very neatly and precisely took out the bills in order, making sure that the bait money was in the right order with the bills so that it wouldn't be noticeable that bait money was slipped in between somewhere. It's peculiar, the things that your mind does when you're in a threatening situation.
Let's review some of the key procedures you should learn and practice so you'll know what to do during a robbery at your branch. Appear calm. The robber is also stressed, and you need to do as he says and give him what he wants so he leaves quickly and without incident. If a hold-up note is involved, try not to handle it. If possible, push it aside. This is a key piece of evidence and may contain the robber's fingerprints and handwriting. During a robbery, your eyes, ears, and even your nose are important weapons. Without being obvious, glance at the robber for distinguishing marks like scars, moles, tattoos, jewelry, piercings, and so on. Try to remember the color of the robber's hair. Is his voice distinguishable? Is he nasally? Does he stutter or lisp? Is his voice low or high? Does he have an accent? Did he hold the note or weapon in his left or right hand? Note if he is clean shaven, if there is a particular odor of alcohol, cigarettes, body odor, anything that might help you identify him. Check out his height, body type, clothes, belt buckle, boots. It's incredible just how much detail you can collect in the time it takes to give the robber the money and watch him leave. If you are being robbed, remember to discreetly include the bait money and/or die pack with the rest of the cash you pass to the robber. The serial numbers of the bait money have been previously recorded and may be traced to the robber. For more detailed information, please refer to bait money and die packs in the Before section of this program. It is critical that you make sure the robber has left the branch before you take any further action. Once again, your eyes are important tools. Observe the robber's approximate height as he passes by the height markers at the exit. Does he have a distinctive walk or a limp? If it's safe to do so, note the direction he takes and if he leaves on foot or gets into a vehicle. Is there anyone else with him? The robber has left, but the robbery itself is still not over. Knowing what to do next will reduce chaos, assist police with their investigation, and help your branch take back control.
Being exposed to a bank robbery will probably be experienced by most people as a traumatic event. It's really important not to be overwhelmed by the experience and have prepared for that eventuality to the best of your ability. It's also probably going to be safer to just go into rote behavior and learned behavior so that you can just get the event over with, and then you're more likely to be able to move on without after effects.
Immediately after the robber has left the premises and you are sure that it is safe to do so, the post-robbery procedures can be initiated. If your branch is trained and prepared for robbery, many of the following procedures will be carried out simultaneously as assigned. In a loud and clear voice, announce that you have just been robbed. This should initiate procedures to notify the police, safeguard the evidence, and most importantly, take care of the people who have just experienced the trauma of a robbery. Call 911 to contact the police. The telephone allows two-way communication between your branch and the police. You can answer their questions, offer timely information that might help apprehend the robber, and update the police about the situation, the robbery, and the witnesses. Once the police have been alerted, the hold-up alarm, which is directly connected to the alarm company, can be pressed. This is a secondary device to alert the authorities. Immediately close and lock all doors and wait for the police to arrive. This helps to secure the crime scene and prevents the robber from returning. Secure the crime scene for the police investigation. Don't let anyone handle or disturb the evidence. Wait for the police. Assist any staff or customers who are injured or traumatized. If necessary, get immediate medical help. Provide drinking water, but never caffeine or alcohol. It is important to the investigation that everyone, staff and customers, should remain at the branch until the police arrive to interview witnesses and take statements. The police will then allow people to leave. Under no circumstance should anyone ever leave the branch to follow the robbers. It's dangerous and extremely unwise to open the door before the police arrive. One of the witnesses could even be an accomplice, or the robbers could run back in and create a hostage situation in an effort to escape from the police. While it is never recommended, if someone must leave, get detailed information about what he or she witnessed and make sure to record their contact information for follow-up by the police. Announce that the police are on their way and ask for cooperation in leaving the robbery area undisturbed. The police will need to look for fingerprints and collect evidence. A robbery suspect description form should be handed out to everyone who was present during the robbery. This includes customers as well as staff. Inform the witnesses that each person should complete both sides of the form independently without discussing what they remember with others. Explain that the completed forms will be given to the police to help in the investigation, and make sure that file copies are made before giving the originals to the police. After a robbery, the branch should be closed for the remainder of the day. The police will be investigating, staff will need to recover, and the amount of the loss has to be determined. Post your branch closed sign indicating that the branch is temporarily closed and offering alternate local branch locations. Security cameras often provide the most incriminating evidence in a robbery. That's why it is so important to make sure the cameras are always working properly and the view is never blocked. Prevent staff from touching the security cameras. Removing the discs, tapes, or film from the recording device or downloading images is the job of your security company personnel. As soon as possible after the robbery, contact your risk management department and report the robbery. Arrange for all staff and other witnesses to be accompanied home by a coworker, a family member, or friend. Staff and customers may be traumatized. Ensure that they are not left alone. There is no doubt that a robbery at a financial institution is big news. While the general public has a right to know what's going on, keeping some of the details confidential may be critical to the investigation. As well, robbery victims have rights too, and may need some privacy following the traumatic experience. Part of your robbery procedural training should include delegating media relations responsibilities to a particular person, management, or even the police. If you are approached by the media or anyone outside of the investigation, you shouldn't discuss the details or give your opinion about the robbery. Instead, refer them to the police or your branch media relations contact. As we've said, it is important to start regaining control of the branch as soon as you are sure the robber has left. Taking control of the situation quickly and appropriately is key to overcoming the traumatic experience. That's why it is essential to have the post-robbery procedures in place before a robbery occurs. It is just as important to assign responsibilities so that everyone knows what to do and everything gets done quickly. After the robber has left the scene, one person should take charge of the situation and delegate responsibilities to others. Discuss your robbery procedures and assign the responsibilities during a staff meeting. And don't forget to review and update your plan and procedures and include a contingency plan for staff absences. Along with this program, you should have received an official robbery kit. Designed to go hand in hand with your robbery training, the kit contains valuable items and information to help your branch prepare for and recover from a robbery. As part of your training, please examine the contents, review the purpose and function of each item, and personalize the kit with contents relevant to your branch. Knowing what to do and acting quickly will minimize chaos and help your branch regain control. It will also assist police in their investigation and hopefully lead to an arrest. This program is part of a comprehensive loss prevention effort from the Credit Union Bonding Program, a joint venture of CUMIS and the cooperators. With your input, we will continue to provide valuable, award-winning programs designed to keep people safe and minimize losses. For more information on other loss prevention programs available to you, please visit our website at cumis.com or speak with your master policyholder. It is said that criminals often take the path of least resistance, and they may return to the scenes of their successes. What can you do? You can make your branch less vulnerable and very unappealing to a robber who hopes to catch you off guard and take off with your money before you realize what's happened. By being alert and observant, you send out the signal your branch is prepared, that you know what to watch for and what actions to take. A branch that is trained and prepared for robbery advertises it is not a pushover for robbers. Preparing your branch for robbery involves more than just having policies and procedures in place. There are things you can do now to help your branch plan and prepare for the emotional after effects of robbery. For example, your managers, supervisors, and staff can hone these and other soft skills. Effective communication skills are always essential. Refresh your verbal, nonverbal, or body language and written communication skills. Offer training for your branch in crisis communication. Knowing how to communicate effectively during and following a crisis is an important factor in getting people back to productive work more quickly. You will learn things like what to say and do and what not to in a crisis situation, what to expect of yourself and others, how to offer support to coworkers and customers, how to take care of yourself, how to read the signs and symptoms in a coworker who needs help, and how to listen effectively. Your branch might also consider training in understanding loss and how to assist others in dealing with it. Should your branch experience a robbery, you should arrange for a robbery trauma seminar for all staff, their spouses, and customers who were present. The seminar should be presented approximately 5 to 10 days after the robbery. If more immediate trauma assistance is required, refer to local medical, social, or victim assistance programs for a crisis response team. Robbery is a fact of life at financial institutions, so it's important that you are fully prepared. Preparing for robbery means having the right policies and procedures in place and updating them regularly. It also means ensuring that your people are trained, organized, and prepared for its possibility. Following a robbery, full staff recovery is important to your financial institution. A robbery often affects morale, productivity, and loyalty, and therefore, it affects the bottom line. This program is designed to educate staff at all levels about the very real possibility of robbery and the importance of taking a proactive approach by preparing now. It presents current, generally accepted practices and procedures designed to minimize your risk of robbery before one occurs in your branch, perhaps even deter a robbery, maximize your safety and the safety of others during a robbery, and help your branch staff recover quickly and completely after a robbery occurs. Various types of financial institution robberies have been increasing steadily over the last decade. Most robberies are now committed by drug addicts. Robbery scenarios include teller holdups, central cash robberies, branch takeovers, cash shipment interceptions, and automated bank machine robberies. The less money the robber gets, the less likely he will return for more. Robbers look for opportunities to steal. For up-to-date robbery statistics in your area, contact your local police department. You can make your branch less vulnerable to robbery by implementing deterrence procedures. When everyone is trained, alert, and observant, you send out the message that your branch is not an opportunity for theft. You can prepare now so you know what to do before, during, and after a robbery. The more prepared you are, the easier it will be to get through the experience. A solid robbery deterrence plan includes policies and procedures are in place, Staff practices regularly. All levels of staff and all new employees are trained so that autopilot kicks in. Training is kept alive by reviewing and updating regularly and providing refreshers every 4 months. Staff is always alert, vigilant, and never complacent about robbery. The risk of robbery is especially high when your branch is opening or closing for the day. Here's how to minimize your risk. In general, don't work outside of business hours. Never work alone. There should be at least 2 staff members at all times. Restrict entrance keys to those who need them. Confirm the identity and appointment of service people and visitors and supervise them the whole time. Let's review the branch opening procedures. A 2-person team opens. The first employee scans the area for suspicious people or signs of a break-in. The second employee remains outside in the car, windows up, doors locked, engine running, and waits for the prearranged all-clear signal. If suspicion is aroused, make mental notes while immediately leaving the location to call the police. If all is well, the first employee enters the building and locks the door from the inside. If there are signs of a break-in, don't disturb the evidence, leave the building immediately, and call police from an outside location. If all is well, the first employee inspects the interior, including alarms, lights, windows, doors, all rooms and areas. If all is well, the first person gives the prearranged all-clear signal, then exits the building and locks the door. If the all-clear signal is not given within a reasonable time, the second employee leaves the area and contacts the police. If all is well, the 2 employees enter the premises together and follow the alarm instructions for opening the vault and safe. Other branch employees enter the premises only when the all-clear signal is visible. The opening protocol, including the all-clear signal, should be changed quarterly. The all-clear signal should be known only to branch staff. Where only 1 person opens, the all-clear signal is phoned to a designated contact person within the pre-established time. If it is not received on time, the contact person immediately calls the police. Let's review the branch closing procedures. 2 people should close, but the team is made up of all staff in the branch. Be aware of strangers, inside and out, who are hanging around at closing. Call the police if suspicions warrant it. Make sure all customers and applicable staff have left the premises. Check and lock all doors and windows. Check all rooms and areas to ensure that everyone has left. Turn off all office equipment and dim the computer screens. Turn off all kitchen and lunchroom appliances. Empty the cash drawers and anti-hold-up units, remove the keys and leave them open. Remove the cash cassette from the dispensing unit and lock it in the vault or safe. Lock all securities and records inside the compartments. Remove confidential or vital records from desks, counters, even wastebaskets. Lock up all rubber stamps. Store the check writer in the main vault. Have someone other than the person who set it check the setting on the vault or safe time lock. Close and lock the vault or safe. Lock all other safes, compartments, and cabinets, remove the keys, and spin the combinations. Leave some inside lights on. Turn the exterior lights on. Open the curtains. The final exit involves the two-person team. The first employee leaves, sits in the car with the engine running, windows up and doors locked. The second employee secures the building and locks the front door. The team leaves together. While opening and closing are times of peak vulnerability, you need to have your wits about you throughout the entire workday. Your eyes are invaluable. Be on the lookout and report any suspicions. Use the back door only for emergencies. Use the time lock on the main door, safe, and vault. Vaults equipped with a time lock are programmed to open and close at your least vulnerable times. Transfer excess cash holdings to the treasury locker in the vault or safe and keep the vault locked until the branch is closed. Service ABMs and night depositories before or after branch hours. Have two people empty the night depository and verify the contents before the doors are open to the public. Keep teller cash holdings within authorized limits. At the end of the day, when all tellers have balanced, lock the cash holdings and excess cash in the vault. Deposit excess money into the anti-holdup units. Test your electronic and mechanical security equipment regularly to ensure it works and is labeled accurately. Check to ensure that the camera view is clear. Never admit non-staff before or after hours. Verify the identification and appointment of any service person and accompany all visitors to sensitive areas. Never count cash in public view and ensure that branch business remains confidential. Be discreet about cash shipment details and secure shipments immediately, allowing a cooling off period before verifying them. Utilize vault and treasury timers. Always be alert and take appropriate action when you are suspicious of someone. Each teller and main treasury cash supply should include bait money that has been recorded and is discreetly included with money taken in a robbery. Sometimes die packs are used, which will burst and stain the money and the robber. When necessary, contact the police by calling 911. Be aware of the hold-up alarm, where it is, and how it works. In the financial services industry, we have a golden rule. Don't try to be a hero. It means just give the robber what he wants and do as he says. Talk to the robber. Tell him what you need to do in order to get him the money. Ask for his permission before you make any sudden moves. Finally, get him out of the branch as quickly as possible. During a robbery, you may not be able to think clearly or methodically plan your next move. That's why it's so important to have the procedures in place and practice them regularly so your reaction is automatic. It's what we call autopilot training. What should you do during a robbery? Remain calm, or at least appear to be calm. Remember, the robber is also stressed. Don't handle the hold-up note. Push it aside for the police investigation. Your eyes, ears, even your nose are important weapons at this time. Look for distinguishing marks. Listen for clues. Note any particular odor. Without being obvious, be observant. Is the robber left-handed? Does he limp? What about an accent? Discreetly include the bait money and die pack with the cash you pass to the robber. Be sure that the robber has left the branch before you do anything. Watch him as he passes by the height markers at the exit. Note the direction he takes, his mode of transportation, and any accomplices. The robber has left, but the robbery is not yet over. Knowing what to do next will reduce chaos, assist police with their investigation, and help your branch take back control. Your post-robbery procedures should be in place long before a robbery occurs. That way, everyone knows what to do and everything gets done quickly. During a staff meeting or training session, discuss your post-robbery procedures and assign the responsibilities. Regularly review and update your plan and procedures and include a contingency for staff changes or absences. After the robber has left the scene, one person should take charge of the situation and delegate responsibilities to others. In a loud and clear voice, announce that you have just been robbed. Dial 911 to call police. Once the police have been alerted, activate the hold-up alarm. Immediately close and lock all doors and wait for the police to arrive. Secure the crime scene. Don't let anyone handle or disturb the evidence. Wait for the police. Assist victims who are injured or traumatized. All witnesses, staff, and customers should remain at the branch until the police allow them to leave. Announce that the police are on their way and ask for cooperation in leaving the robbery area undisturbed. Your robbery kit contains robbery suspect description forms that should be completed by each witness independently. After a robbery, the branch should be closed for the day so the police can investigate, staff can recover, and the loss can be determined. Your robbery kit includes a branch close sign that you can personalize with alternate branch locations and post on your main door. Prevent staff from touching the security cameras. Removing the discs, tapes, or film from the recording device is the job of your security company personnel. As soon as possible, contact your risk management department and report the robbery. Arrange for all staff and other witnesses to be accompanied home by a coworker, family member, or friend. Victims may be traumatized. Ensure that they will not be left alone. Never discuss the robbery details or offer your opinion. Refer questions to the police or your branch media relations contact. Along with this program, you should have received an official robbery kit. Designed to go hand in hand with your robbery training, the robbery kit contains valuable items and information to help your branch prepare for and recover from a robbery. As part of your training, please examine the contents, review the purpose and function of each item, and personalize the kit with contents relevant to your branch. The trauma of a critical incident like a robbery can have a lasting effect if victims don't deal with their feelings and express them. Following a robbery, victims may journey through a cycle of normal emotions known as the post-trauma cycle. It's a healing process, allowing them to recover from the emotional injury of being traumatized. The post-trauma cycle is designed to help you learn about human responses to trauma. That way, you can be prepared for your own reactions to trauma, recognize the physical and emotional signs in others, and respond appropriately and communicate effectively to support others through a crisis. The cycle format is designed to illustrate the many responses to trauma without indicating that there is a specific order or predictability to the stages. We also wish to emphasize that not everyone goes through all of the stages, nor is there a specific time frame to any stage. The post-trauma cycle has been described in 4 phases: shock, impact, recurrence, and resolution. Each of these phases has its own emotions, and everyone reacts differently. Not all emotions have to be experienced by everyone, and certainly not in any particular order. The shock phase may have two distinct emotional responses: immobilization and denial. There may be three distinct emotional responses during the impact phase: anger and/or extreme anxiety, depression, and self-doubt. The recurrence and resolution phases often blend together. Reconciliation, acceptance, and recovery may be three distinct emotional responses. For more detailed information on the post-trauma cycle, please click here. Following a robbery, always keep the lines of communication open and talk to your coworkers, family members, or friends. The emotions you are feeling are normal and may need time to resolve. Some robbery victims may need to be referred for professional guidance at any stage. Honing your soft skills is another important way to help prepare your branch for robbery. In fact, these are all valuable life skills that will help you in your professional and personal life. Effective communication skills have and always will be essential. Refresh your verbal, nonverbal, or body language and written communication skills. Offer training for your branch in crisis communication. Knowing how to communicate effectively during and following a crisis is an important factor in getting people back to productive work more quickly. Your branch might also consider training in understanding loss and how to assist others in dealing with it. Following a robbery, you should arrange for a robbery trauma seminar for all staff, their families, and customers who were present. The seminar should be presented approximately 5 to 10 days after the robbery. If more immediate trauma assistance is required, refer to local medical, social, or victim assistance programs for a crisis response team. Full staff recovery following a robbery is important to your financial institution. A robbery often affects morale, productivity, and loyalty, and therefore the bottom line.